Well, welcome everybody to tonight's conversation, magic show, workshop, whatever words you want to use. We just won't call it a webinar because no one goes to webinars anymore. That is so like, 2005. So without too much further ado, I think we should just get right to it because we have, sorry, go ahead. All right.
I'm on a webinar or a Zoom call.
Oh, okay. Just mute for a sec here if you would, please.
Hang on, real quick.
All right, so tonight's conversation, you guys, is four-letter words that block your growth in business. And this four-letter word is not the vernacular words that most people would immediately jump their minds to. It's just kind of hopefully a fun conversation piece here that'll get us into a dialogue. A lot of people that I meet and talk to about where they're at in life and where they're at in business. One of the most common things, and it's said in different ways at different times, you guys, but one of the most common things that I hear is that, I feel like there's something in the way. I feel like there's something blocking me. I feel like, there's an itch I can't scratch. That's actually how Coach Fraser, when he started coaching with me many years ago, that was exactly the words he used. I feel like I got an itch I can't scratch. And so a lot of times people go and they think immediately, just like, as a chiropractor for over 30 years, there are traumas, toxins, and thoughts that cause nervous system interference or subluxation. And very commonly, I find people immediately go to the physical stuff, right? They go, well, I didn't lift anything. I didn't fall on my ass. I didn't, well, yeah, but what about the mental emotional state of your life right now? Huh? What about the biochemical state of your life? What about the metabolic state? How are you on that front? Huh? Right? So people get really locked into this physical mindset. And I find that's true in business as well. People tend to get into this physical mindset stuff, and they forget the energetics of life and the energetics of practice and what it means to, and how those energetic things, soft skill things, if you will, can also block you, right? So we're going to get into this dialogue, but before we do, I want to show you where this fits, you guys, in our system. And if I'm as high tech today as I believe that I could be, I'm going to stop that share. I'm going to start a new share, and we're going to see if we can make this thing work. Yay, there we are. So this is, for those that don't know, this is our full circle roadmap. This is a structure I put together several years ago that just like a map in a, Google Maps or Waze or anything does, it guides you to where you want to go. And so there's three levels to this. There is what we call the clarity phase. Let's see if I can get this thing to go, right? Which is sort of the bottom rung of a ladder, if you will, right? So there's three rungs to this ladder. And the clarity phase is often where people begin, not always, but often where people begin, because it's like the foundation of a home. If you haven't got a strong foundation in your home, it's improbable or impossible to have a stable building above that, right? So you got to start sort of at the base. And this is what we call the clarity phase. It's the clarity about who you are, why you do what you do, and so on. And our four-part model is based upon vision, focus, systems, and team, okay? And each one of these columns, if you will, have different priorities and things in it. There's different things that we've found to be the main components that make a difference in a human's or a business owner's life in order for them to express themselves authentically and fully, okay? And so the clarity phase, we find most people working on the clarity phase pieces are generating, 5 to 20,000 a month in take-home revenue. People that are working on the manifestation level are sort of in more the 20 to 40K a month range. And it's a different group of things that those people are going to be working on. Okay. So this is a whole different group of items from the ones that are, down in the clarity phase, which is this area down here. Okay. And then the last sort of rung of the ladder is the legacy phase, which is where you're talking about leaving a legacy for generations and generations to come. And again, it's a completely different set of issues, of things to work on. There's certainly some things that are similar, but again, it's a different group of things, a different group of issues to work on, a different group of mindsets to conquer, a different group of capabilities develop, a different group of skill sets, and so on, right? So that is our roadmap. And just to give you like a little bit of a thumbnail about how it works and what it looks like, okay? And where we are today in the roadmap, where this conversation is today, is down here in the clarity level. And in specifically, it's in the focus area. And if I'm really, wow, I'm going to really challenge myself here today, you guys, to see if I can get this to actually highlight. Look at that. Dan, Robin, you guys, Carrie, you guys know me a long time. Look at that. Hey, who says you can't teach a young dog a new trick? So this is under the topic of ESOL's limiting beliefs is really what we're going to be focusing on a lot tonight. And I'm going to let the cat a tiny bit out of the bag. That is the 4-letter word. It's a word that I literally made up one time. It's called, it is ESOLs. And we're going to get back to it here in just a moment, as soon as I can get my screen to share what I want it to share. So let me just click a couple more magic buttons and we shall get back to it, you guys, to the regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so this is the roadmap. As I said, we're down here on ESOL's limiting beliefs, so that you have a little better understanding of that. I had one of my admin staff, actually Tess, who's one of my daughters, our daughters, didn't do it myself. More fun when you don't do it yourself. She actually took the clarity phase and broke it down into different sort of levels. Okay, and so you can see that the vision component is always where we start. You got a clarity on what you want, how you define success, and knowing your numbers, and then the focus issues are how to stay focused, which is really what this is falling under. Effective time management and certainty about whether you can deliver the goods or not. The systems that we find are most important here are developing a new patient pipeline, steady stream of new clients, how to effectively onboard them, the structures and procedures that are needed to onboard them optimally, and then how to find a team. I'm glancing at a frame here, you guys. How to make sure the team supports your vision, and then how to inspire and lead them, okay? So that is a little bit of a zoom in, if you will, on what's going on in the world of the clarity phase of our roadmap. But again, tonight we're talking about 4-letter words. And again, I already brought this up just earlier in the introduction, you guys, but this is really commonly referred to as an itch that you can't scratch. It's, to use the chiropractic lexicon, you guys, right? It's a subluxation. It's an interference to the normal expression of your inherent greatness. Because as I've said as many times as I've been asked to speak, in the hundreds, if not thousands of times now, God doesn't make any junk, right? Everybody has their gifts and everybody has their warts and foibles. The question is, what's inside of you that wants out? What's inside of you that wants to be expressed to the world? And knowing that God doesn't make any junk, knowing that you're a child of God, knowing that you have that infinite potential inside of you, you're made of such great stuff. Why aren't you expressing at your fullest level? What's in the way? And that's really what the focus category of our model is about, is looking for those blocks, looking for those subluxations, looking for those interferences in expression. And again, we're using different languages to express a similar concept, you guys, but it's really about, that itch that you can't scratch. It's that frustration that there's something there that just won't let you seem to break through, right? There's a lot of people in this profession that are working super hard, working either lots of hours or moving their feet really quickly, or both. And as a result of that, it's like, well, I just need to work harder. Well, I can tell you that I was the champion of that club for a period of time in my life. And, I was quite proud and still wear at times the badge of honor that says, I work really hard. So if I want to be more successful, I got to work harder. Well, I can tell you something, you guys, that has a short life cycle. It's called burnout. And you eventually get to a point where, you just keep friggin' head against the wall and you're not getting any farther despite how much harder you work, because again, there's something in the way. And it's almost like I had a potential new client say this to me, recently. She goes, you know what? I feel like there's like a secret, there's probably I need like a secret handshake to unlock the secret. That if I get in the club and somebody tells me the secret, then I don't have to work as hard. And I'll this thing that's blocking me, this itch I can't scratch, I'll get on the other side of it. Right? And I went, not so sure about the secret handshake thing. I was a period of time in an organization that actually had a secret handshake. But in this case, I don't think that's really what you're looking for. Because the bottom line, you guys, right, is people don't want to be labeled as insane, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, working harder, working longer, doing the same things and expecting a different result. That is by definition insanity. And so that's, I think, the secret fear that a lot of clients or potential clients have is that I'm just gonna, I'm just literally, I don't have it in me. And I'm going to be labeled clinically insane, and off I go to the padded room, right? Whereas in truth, what we want is we want to have clarity that there's a cause-effect relationship, that if we put in a pound of energy, that we're going to get in, or a pound of time or whatever, that we're going to get an equal return out the other side. But from being in the coach consulting space for so many years, you guys, I can tell you there's a lot of people that it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. That in fact, it's a pound of, effort or energy in, and it's a gram of energy, back, or results out the other side. Now, what we really want to do is flip that equation, right? And put a gram of energy in, or an ounce of energy, to use imperial, and get a pound of results out the other side. It's doing something once, leveraging it, and creating outcome out the other side. And this conversation we're having tonight about this secret 4-letter word, which I kind of let the cat out of the bag, ESOLs, we're going to go through the most common ones that I've found in my long consulting career. Okay. The other thing we all want to be able to do is work smarter, not necessarily harder. And this is certainly, those of you that I've had the privilege of hanging out with, that this is one of my mantras, is the ability to learn to work smarter, not just harder. Again, I can still wear with pride that work ethic that I inherited from my very blue-collar working class family. And it got me a long ways in life. And then it was also the exact thing that I was pounding my head against the ceiling on, because I thought if I just worked harder or more hours that I would get farther ahead. And in fact, that wasn't true. And what I started to do was start to resent people that were working these, much less hours than I was, and getting the same or actually equal results. Or better results in some cases, right? So again, there is the ability to work smarter and harder. And this clearing this 4-letter word from your life is one of the keys to be able to work smarter, not just harder, you guys, right? Because again, this is kind of the same piece of the puzzle as the earlier conversation about cause and effect, you guys, is we want to know that if we do this, we can layer on top of it this, and then this, and sure enough, we're climbing, the perpetual beanstalk, getting to where it is we want to go. We call those building blocks. And those building blocks really allow us to get what we would call predictable growth, right? But there's a lot of people I've coached in my many, many, many years of coaching that did not have that cause effect building block, predictable growth equation, because this thing was in the way, okay? And I want to tell you Dr. Shelley's story. I didn't get permission to share her location and her picture, so I didn't do that. But when I met Shelley years ago, she was in a bit of a tough spot, okay? Her background, her practice was okay, but she was literally one of the many clients I've had over the years that's talked to me about this itch that she couldn't scratch. She just felt there was something in the way. So here's Shelley's story. She came from a small town in Eastern Canada in the Maritime provinces. And she was literally the epitome of the big fish in the little tiny pond. Okay. She was in a school that was still like a K to grade 12 school. So there was a very small student population. I think her graduating class had of like grade 12 kids had like 8 or 10 kids in it. So very small school, very small, rural fishing community. And she was the smart girl and the athletic girl and the pretty girl, and she was all that, right? She was all that in a bag of chips. And so she had this enigma around her that she was gonna, go ahead and do great things. And because she did well academically, she actually got a scholarship to go off to university, to go to Dalhousie. And she was the first person ever in the history of her family, and she had a big family, mom and dad both had lots of brothers and sisters in the area, she had lots of cousins, generationally. No one had ever gone to college. No one had ever gone to university. And she was the first in a long generation. So her getting a scholarship, because financially they weren't so well off, was a big deal, right? A huge deal, okay? So she goes off to school and she did what a lot of kids do. She sowed her wild oats, so to speak, and she partied. And as a result of that, she maybe wasn't as academically astute as she once was. And at the end of her first year, she lost her scholarship. And that was a really big deal in her community. because she was the kid that did well. And she was, again, the smart kid, the athletic kid, the pretty kid, and she was going to do all this great stuff with her life. And then she went and kind of screwed it up, right? And she was, now whether this is true or not, I don't know, but you know, life's about perception. She had a perception that everyone in the community was talking about her, right? And she had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about this particular experience that happened in her life. And this became an ESOL in her life. And an ESOL is an acronym that I made up years ago, you guys, for an energetic space occupying lesion. Okay, it's an energetic version of like a tumor or a cancer, right? Because in physiology, we talk about space occupying lesions that take up space in cell structures or organ structures, which can affect function. And if, you know, they expand large enough, they can really detract from the normal function and or cause, you know, structure death or even, you know, logistic death. And so this is not that, obviously, right? It's not a physiological thing, but it's an energetic version of that. It's like a malware, spyware. And the old days, for those of you who've been around for a while, it's like the old 486 computer I had that I used to go in and defrag the hard drive, right? And get the stuff reorganized and get it properly set up. ESOLs block the ability of our hearts and our minds, our essence, to function at their highest level, okay? And so she had a lot of guilt and shame around this experience. We addressed the ESOL and we cleared the ESOL. And I'm going to share with you some of the more common ESOLs tonight. And then certainly getting some time to clear those would be obviously extremely wise, okay? So after we cleared the ESOL, here's what as I dug into clearing the ESOL, here's what we found out. I said, there can be no loss without gain. It defies the laws of the universe, the law of the balance in the universe. So I said, what good things came up out of that? Well, she couldn't think of one good thing that came up out of losing her scholarship. And I said, well, tell me what happened. And it was a long coaching session or several long coaching sessions, you guys. But the Reader's Digest version of the story was this. As a result of missing and losing her scholarship, she had to go back and redo calculus, first year calculus. And who would want to do calculus again? Who'd want to do it the first time, quite frankly? But anyways, she did what she did. She went back, and as a result of being in this class, she actually met a new friend. And this new friend actually became her best friend, her BFF, okay? And as a result of hanging out with this BFF's dad was a chiropractor. And as a result, she had never been exposed to chiropractic before. And as a result of, what's the sequence of events, you guys, right? They created all the guilt and shame and this energetic space occupying lesion that was like a black cloud over her head and a wound on her heart because she had all the shame and guilt she was still carrying many years later. Like I got to know her probably at least 12 or 15 years, maybe even more after, you know, this experience. And she was still carrying that. Because this happened, because she misses calculus, because she has to go back and redo it, she meets a new friend, becomes her BFF. She goes to their house a lot and interacts. The dad starts talking to her. She gets introduced to chiropractic. And as a result of that, falls in love with chiropractic and chooses chiropractic as a career. So she actually found chiropractic and her love and her passion for the career because her soul attracted this experience. Hey, Dr. Olson. And so this was something, and as I started to sort of lay the steps out for her, she was like, you could just see her starting to lighten up, right? Well, here's another cool part of the story. Her best friend's boyfriend had a best friend. And because they were hanging out together, she got to know this best friend who became her boyfriend, who became her fiance, who became her husband. And so you could start to see how all of this came together. They got married, they conceived a child who was the absolute muse and light of her life. And as a result of that entire sequence of experiences, you guys, which, I mean, this stuff, when you actually see it come together, the first 8,000 or 9,000 times I put an ESOL trail together for a client, you guys, I thought it was a coincidence. Now I think there's something to this stuff. I really do. So as a result of this whole experience, finds her best friend, finds her career, falls in love, gets married, and has the thing that lights her up more than anything, which was the one child that they had at the particular time that I was working with Dr. Shelley. That ESOL was, again, a rain cloud over her head. It was a block over her heart. And as I actually reframed it for her and showed her the blessings that come out of it, let me be clear, you guys, it was a tear-jerking moment for her and truthfully for me. But out of that, it cleared the cloud over her head, right? And the wound over her heart. and her practice took off like you couldn't believe. If I remember the stat, I could go look it up, but I believe she'd been at a fairly steady plateau for quite a while when she started to coach with me. And it was pretty early in our coaching that within the first year that we did this work. And I think her practice jumped 20 or 21% within a quarter, like just boom, just jumped like that, because it wasn't blocking her anymore. She didn't have the guilt and the hurt and the shame that she'd carried for all those years, as a result of finding out that experience. Okay. So this concept of ESOLs, there's 5 keys that we're going to discuss: law of attraction, energetics, the cup full, ESOLs, and the concept of limiting beliefs. Okay. So one thing we definitely need to frame, you guys, is the concept of the law of attraction. Law of attraction says that those things that we focus on in our life come to us. Okay. One of my old teachers used to say it this way: that which is likened unto itself is drawn. Right. So there was almost like a magnet, an energetic magnet that you put out to the universe. And this happens for the positive and the negative. And it's interesting, as I coach people, I find there's people that don't have a problem talking about, law of attraction. I focused on this great thing in my life and I got it. And I said, yeah, okay, but what about the shit in your life? And they're like, I don't think it works for that. No, it 100% works both ways. Okay. But the piece that most people miss is what the blessing is, what the guidance is. Why did their soul attract this experience for them to learn and grow, right? I was teaching a program as of this recording a couple of nights ago on succession planning. And I happened to, bring up the story of the time that I spent 11 hours in jail. Not something I'm terrifically proud of, and not something I'd recommend to anybody else. If you don't want to have that experience, I would, wasn't the most fun thing I ever experienced. It was over an alleged, let's be clear, an alleged gun storage violation. And you got to understand the context, right? My dad's a big outdoors person, big outdoorsman. And that's where probably I modeled some of that early behavior before I found my passion for the outdoors, or probably part of the reason I found it. And literally in the old days, there was a firearm hanging on every wall in every room in our home, right? So there was no gun storage laws and locks and keys and safes and all this kind of stuff, right? So I was significantly better than that. But there was an experience, and anyways, it turned out to be this alleged infraction, which turned out to be just a big pain in the butt. And it took a while, and I ended up going to court and all of this stuff. But it was on the surface, somebody said, "Oh my God, Tom, you poor man, you're such a victim." And I said, "Oh no victims, no victims. If you truly understand the law of attraction, there's no such thing as a victim. There's unfortunate circumstances. There's people's behaviors that you don't have to condone. But you need to understand that the law of attraction works for both the quote unquote positive and the negative, because there can be no loss without gain. There can be no gain without loss. And so it's always balanced in the big picture of things. It's just temporally or form wise, sometimes people have to really dig deep into that. But I learned a lot out of that experience, and I gained a lot. And so there's no victims in that, Tom going to jail for 11 hours. I can laugh about it now, you guys, but seriously, it was quite stressful at the time. And I was on because they wanted to make an example out of me because I was a doctor and I should know better, blah, 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 that I was on the second page of the newspaper. I was number 2 or 3 on the CTV regional news for Northern Ontario. I was on the radio. I was on all 3 radio stations for a couple of days. It was just absolutely bizarre. But I'll tell you this, you guys, I was clear that I did that. I attracted that for my own growth, for my own development, right? My soul attracted that experience, just like Dr. Shelley attracted her experience that I just recited you guys as a result of that, right? So watch, if you've got a black rain cloud over your head and a wound in your heart like Dr. Shelley had, you're sending out a very different vibration than one that's pure of intent and pure of focus and as authentic as can be, right? So this is why we want to identify ESOLs in our life, in our business, and we want to clear them, because they're definitely blocking you from putting out the most authentic, strong, clear, and focused energy message you can to live the life of your desires and dreams and to run the business that goes with that, okay? And again, I talked a little bit about this at the start of this conversation, you guys, right? But there's an energetics to life, right? E equals MC squared. This funny guy with a weird hairdo named Albert Einstein, way back in 1895, validated the theory of relativity, that energy and matter are interchangeable the closer you get the speed of light squared. And so the essence of all of this physical world that we interact with every day is just energetics. It's just, relatively speaking, moving slowly enough to take the form of, physical matter or concrete matter, if you will, right? But it's energetics that really drives all of that, right? And of course, Einstein was very clear that he said, and behind the energy of the universe is a deep, meaningful, and loving intelligence. I don't know what Einstein's spiritual views were, but anybody that would say that, it's definitely seems like they have a value in an understanding of what we would call in chiropractic universal intelligence, right? And so those energetics matter. The energy that we absorb every day, the energy that we put out matter. And if we're blocked by ESOLs, we can't be putting out the strongest, most focused, most deliberate, most intentional, most authentic energy in the world. Or we're putting it out there, but it's a fractal of what it could be. It's not going out to the same degree that it could be, right? Which you could end up with then is a cup that's half empty instead of half full, because you're not able to express yourself at the highest level that you would love to. And again, it's not it's not the marketing, it's not the school you went to, it's not the looking at all of the physical tangible things. It's something within you. It's something within the essence of who you are, right? I'll tell you guys, when I was in practice early on, I wasn't smart enough my first couple of years of practice to have a coach in my life. I've had one pretty much ever since. But I was just pretty hungry and pretty eager, and I wore the badge of honor that I worked really hard. And so I had started 2 offices from scratch simultaneously. One, a little rural town that I grew up in of 1,000 people, named Sundridge, and then the city I live in now, which is North Bay, which has an economic or a demographic draw of about maybe 100,000. It really hasn't changed much in the 30 plus years I've been here. And so I started the 2 offices from scratch, and again, in hindsight, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was hungry, I was excited, and I was passionate about chiropractic. And, I had a lot of good help. I had some really good assistants, and we just built the businesses up. And when Shelley was pregnant, my wife Shelley was pregnant with her first daughter, Jera, I was working a lot of hours, and I was driving back and forth to 45 minutes between the 2 clinics at least 3 days a week. And I built both of the clinics up to about 150 patient visits a week. And so I had a combined patient volume of about 300 patient visits a week. But I was busting my butt. I was working a lot of hours. And when Shelley was pregnant with Jera, I didn't want to be that guy, right? I didn't want to be that absent dad that had pictures of his kids on his nightside stands to remember what the hell they looked like. That wasn't why I participated in being a father. And so I sold one of my dear friends the Sunridge office, and I focused on that. But I literally halved my income, right? Literally, just like overnight, I halved my income. And the amount of money in those days, particularly, you could get for a chiropractic practice didn't anywhere near make up for even months of that, right? So anyways, the question I've often asked people is, if truly energy and law of attraction and who you are, what you put out to the world energetically is the biggest influence on how successful you are in your ideal, which I know is true, how long of a period of time did it take me to build the 1 office up to the same volume that I had the 2 offices at? And the answer is 6 weeks. Because I was at that state, my mindset, my consciousness, the energy I was putting out was about a 300 a week practitioner. And so whether I had 1 office or 2 offices or 3 offices, I would probably be seeing about 300 a week. And so it's a great affirmation, you guys, about things that we're talking about tonight, relative to, the law of attraction, the energetics of life, and, how you look at the world, whether you're looking at a cup half full or half empty, right? And these ESOLs come in lots of forms, you guys, all kinds of forms, right? Debt and crisis and risk and all kinds of things. Some of them take on tangible forms. I had a client, Dr. Martin from the Eastern Townships of Quebec, who had heard me speak at the BBs a few times and had thought about coaching, but was just kind of in that whatever wait and see phase. She had 3 children, and she was consistently getting home at like 8:30 at night, even though her office hours were supposed to be done at 6. She was getting home at 8:30 at night. By that point, her little children were already, fed and bathed and put to bed and stuff, and she was missing out on a big chunk of her life. And she had some guilt and resentment about that. And so she had a lid on her practice because this guilt she was feeling about not being the kind of mom she wanted to be was blocking her from growing her business beyond what she knew she was capable of. Well, she attracted a hell of an ESOL, you guys. It was a great big energetic space occupying lesion. It was in the form of it was in the form of a plow truck. And on her way home one night from the office, late again, relative to her commitments to her husband and to her kids, she, in a blinding snowstorm, she hit an energetic space occupying lesion called a snowplow at highway speeds, and was in a coma for 11 weeks. It was a hell of a wake-up call, you guys. It was one of the most severe ones I've ever seen. But as she come out of that coma, I think it was her second day, she called me and she goes, "We need to talk. I need to do some coaching because I'm not going to attract another ESOL of that magnitude, ever again," right? One of the more common forms, you guys, of an ESOL are what we call limiting beliefs. And we're going to actually invest some time, and I'm going to share with you. And I created a worksheet, or actually my min team created a worksheet, I believe, which will go through the limiting beliefs, checklist, so to speak, you guys, right? So listen, before I get on any farther, does anybody have any questions or at this stage of the game as I transition out of that share and go into another one? Happy to see some activity in the chat, or we're actually got a quiet enough group. If somebody has a question or an experience they'd love to share, I would be very open to hearing about it if you want to come off mute and just share.
No, not right now.
Okay. Anybody else have a question or something to share? I can hang out for a moment. All right. Well, listen, let's go in and I will share these really common ESOLs that I've found, you guys, over the years. Okay. So, and again, there is a worksheet that goes with this, you guys. And in there, what I would encourage you to do if you're a note-taking type of person would be, of course, you had to register, Dan, to get the worksheet, but you can get it you can ask Tanya for it. No big deal. In there is a picture that looks like this. And what I would encourage you to do is to just jot down either the limiting beliefs that I'm going to talk about, because these are very common in my experience of coaching for all these years. And/or if you've got a really specific one that gets triggered as we go, certainly, jot that down, right? So one of the ones that I see very commonly, you guys, and I'm just going to do it, as an X here, is for, wrong, is, people that they feel like they went to the wrong school. They didn't go to Life, or they didn't go to Palmer, or they didn't go to Sherman, or they didn't go to New Zealand, or they didn't go to one of what they perceive to be schools that are more aligned with their current, version and philosophy of chiropractic. And so that becomes a limiting belief. And again, energetically, they're putting out this negative vibration that, well, I can only be so successful in practice because I literally went to the wrong school, right? So if this resonates, and then you've got, you know what, Tom, you might have something there. There might be a little piece back in my brain somewhere around that. Literally tonight, all we have time to do, you guys, is to present the construct and list some of the more common limiting beliefs. But if you'd like some help with clearing some of these from your life and your business, certainly if you're a client of ours, obviously getting on an implementation call would be the key to that. And if you're not, certainly reach out to me privately. I'd be very happy to book a complimentary conversation with you to talk to you about how to do that balancing act, basically, to see that ESOL thread that I talked about, like with Dr. Shelley, to really be able to help you get clear of the ESOL that is highly likely holding you hostage to some way, shape, or team. I've also seen, you guys, again, an X stands for wrong here in this example because it's a little bit smaller to write on. I've often heard people say that they just have the wrong team. It's just they're just not trained well enough, or they're not sharp enough, or they don't get the big idea, or the whatever, right? Or some people say, well, what, I don't even have a team anymore, right? And so I can only be so successful because I don't have a team. Well, that is, again, a limiting belief that's blocking you from getting, where you're supposed to go. Another one I see, you guys, is the wrong location. They tell me all the time that they're just on the wrong side of the tracks. And I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but I already referenced this other program that I'm teaching on Tuesday nights. And this came up, and I hadn't thought about this in a while, you guys. But if you don't do what I'm about to suggest to you, I strongly encourage you to start. Okay. And all it is a simple poll, a survey of your existing practice members to ask them and find out why they actually come and see you. What is it about you and the service you offer and your team and your location and the cologne you wear or don't wear, or the color of your skin or the size of your shoes or whatever, okay? The size of your shoes and cologne doesn't matter, you guys, I'm being a goofball. But anyways, I used to do this on a semi-annual basis with our practice. And we would get hundreds and hundreds of replies. So we could collate that data and it would help us get direction about things we might want to upgrade or do better or future tense or whatever, right? And there was commonly 15 things on the list. And I can tell you guys, just to break this limiting belief, possibly forever, if you're a person that's on this call or watching this recording that has this limiting belief about your location. Number one was the number one reason why you came to our office and experienced our care. And number 15 was the least important reason. Always the number 15th, the least important reason why people came to see my office, you guys, was location. And at that point, I'd been in 3 different locations. And I swear to goodness, the practice members that we had, I can't say that this was a universal thing because I haven't been wise enough to integrate it into all coaching clients, but Dan and Robin, we should do this. Eric, we should do this. But in our office, it was definitely, I really felt like I could have a fish hut out in the middle of Lake Nipissing and they would probably come and find us, right? Yep. But the number one reason, you guys, imagine some of you with experience would probably get it, and you'd have to see the list to probably, really get it. But I can short form you to tell you that the number one reason they came was because of the caring, effective attitude of the doctor. Number one reason why they came to see us, right? Now, obviously, we'd guided them a little bit with the 15 different questions that we'd put out, right, as to reasons why they may or may not come. But I can tell you, collecting data on why people see you and experience your amazing care, super smart idea, you guys, okay? Speaking of, things that are wrong, how about this one, you guys? I hear this a lot, right? The wrong technique, right? Somebody's getting better results because they have a different or better technique. And it's like, you know what? Last I heard, talking to my buddy Guy RECOMMELE, who's pretty aware of a lot of things going on in the profession. There's over 300 recognized techniques in chiropractic today. And you know what the big secret is, you guys? They all work in some way, shape, or form. They all work, right? I myself have a toolbox that involves everything from lighter tonal touch type techniques to a pretty heavy-handed technique called a crane condyle lift. And different people, different times in my experience as a practitioner, they all work or worked, right? So again, these can be limiting, beliefs as well, right? Then you can get into some like really basic ones, you guys, right? Where I just literally come up on the wrong side of the tracks, and people, like me, we don't succeed. We don't get very far, right? I can remember, as I got into abundance consciousness and the study of finance and money and stuff, there was all of these deep set beliefs that I held that I got privy to, that I can remember my dad saying, because he came from, really hard working blue collar farm folk and lumberjacks and so on, right? And it's just like, yeah, son, people like us don't get rich. People like us don't have nice things. People like us don't drive nice cars. People like us fill in the blank, you guys, right? That's what I mean when I talk about, wrong side of the tracks. It's literally a perception people have that they, that maybe they can't get where they want to go, okay? Another one, you guys, that I brought up earlier when I talked about Dr. Shelley, but it's past experiences, right? And really particularly focusing on the negative side of those past experiences, right? Not doing the work to balance it out. Yep.
Change your color.
I'm going to change it right now, Dan, because I realize that purple is starting to look a little bit harder to see, right? So we already talked a bit about that, you guys. So I don't think we need to get into too much depth there. Let's see how the yellow works, Dan. And then this isn't, whoa, that was really funky. I don't know what happened there. That was all kind of weird. This is another one, you guys. It's just past hurts that people are hanging on to. And again, I'll reference Dr. Shelley on this one, past guilt or shame, right? So again, there's other categories of energetic space occupying lesions, you guys, but these are definitely some of the most common ones. And they, they fall under, particularly these ones here, they fall underneath that, boy, that thing's weird when it does that. They fall under this category, you guys, of, limiting beliefs. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions at this point, or can anybody just identify, maybe even in the chat, what is a limiting belief that you have either had or have now that you can recognize there? You don't need to get into too much detail, but let's see if we can get a couple people in the chat to just say which one of those limiting beliefs is one that you've either are experiencing or have experienced. Let's see who's got their fingers moving at this point, either on their phone or their computer. And we'll see if we can get some activity in that as I start to get this conversation moved into the next phase. So, what is a belief, a limiting belief you've had, or that you either have or had, and how has that impacted? Right. I see Dan's fingers moving. That's fantastic. Kara, I can't see your amazingly beautiful face, so I don't know what you're up to. Dr. Eric, what have you got to say? Kira, what's going on? Let's hear what has gone on in your world in the category of limiting beliefs. ESOLs, past hurts, past guilts, wrong side of the tracks. Is it your technique? Is it your office? Is it your team? What is it that blocks, right? Dan says, past guilt over dropping the ball over certain things. Yep, that's one that I've certainly wrestled with in my life as well, Dan. Certainly can be a thing that holds you back, for sure. Kara, past experience of not following through on what I think I'm supposed to do to be successful. Yep, that's another one for sure. Default to past level of success. Yeah, just, you know, staying comfortable. It's an interesting thing, you guys, right? Because if you stay where you are, it's actually feels kind of safe. Dr. Eric says, how do I find out what my limiting beliefs are? Financial beliefs are. We actually have an entire course on that, Dr. Eric, right? So I would encourage you to jump on a implementation call and talk it down with the coaching team. We have a questionnaire, Eric. It's a 74 question financial abundance beliefs questionnaire that's in one of our money management. I would encourage you to jump into. So if you don't get on a coaching call, Eric, to talk to the coach about that, certainly just shoot me a private email or text, and I'll make sure that we get that on your next game plan, because I think we have one of your game plans coming up pretty soon. So we'll definitely make sure we get that one underway. All right, you guys, let's go in and bring this baby in for the perpetual landing, okay? So what is it that I would recommend you do with this information, you guys, right? Well, I would suggest this, is to just really take ownership at the very least tonight that energetics matter. That Einstein wasn't just some wacky dude with bad hair, right? He's a pretty sharp guy. E equals MC squared really validated the whole concept of the theory of relativity, which was the birth of quantum mechanics, quantum physics. Out of that, there was some, negative things that occurred, like the Manhattan Project, the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But there was also some other things that came up out of that, like nuclear reactors that create energy and different things. But more importantly for me is just the appreciation of the subtleties, but the importance of the subtleties of energetics in life and how they influence, who you are and how you work through life. And of course, what I would encourage you to do is to identify the ESOLs that are in fact impacting your world and clear them. And this is something, you guys, that is in my offering, at least for me, and 99.99% repetitive of all the clients I've worked with, it's not a one and done thing, right? It's a way to look at life. It's a way to view life. And certainly working at identifying and clearing ESOLs will make a huge difference in your ability to put out the type of energy you want to put to the world, that focused, clear, concise, intentional, high vibration, high law of attraction energy. That certainly will make a difference. But I can tell you from doing this work for over 30 years on myself, as well as on clients, that there's successive layers of release that happens in this stuff, right? It's like the subluxation tract, you guys. It has so much memory built into the myelin structure, right, of the neurology, that it takes a lot more repetition to clear, right? And the same thing happens here with these ESOLs, is that it's something that you'll bump into. It's possible you'll bump back into it again, but you'll bump into it from a higher level, and it'll be a tighter circle, if you will, if you think about it from a geometric standpoint, and it will clear a whole lot faster as a result the next time, right? My wife and I have been in a relationship now It's kind of bizarre, you guys, but this August we'll have been married 38 years. Just when Shelley and I were in relationship for more years than we've been alive on the planet, without each other in our lives, it was a kind of a bizarre, sobering kind of a thought, right? Hey, Dr. Kara, nice to have you. Happy to have you here. And so anyways, we've been in a relationship now for over 40 years, but we've been married as of this year for 38 years. And there's crap that goes on in our relationship still, you guys, that like it's got roots that's like 40 years old. And there was a time where we'd hit this bag of crap and it would be like, again, if you can imagine my hands moving, right? This big circle where it was like a big deal. And we'd be pissed at each other for like, I don't know, weeks, okay, working through the stuff. And then, months or years would go by and we'd hit that same issue again, but at like a higher concentric ring of consciousness awareness and growth, because we'd released a lot of the ESOL around it. But we could possibly, we'd bump into it again. But instead of taking weeks to clear, it would take days. And then we grew to another level, and years or decades later, we'd hit it again, but we'd clear it in hours. And now there's some of that same shit we hit, but we'll clear it with like a glance and a smile and a goofy laugh. Like we'll clear it in seconds, right? So again, I don't want somebody to get into the mindset that, you're going to clear an ESOL, it's going to be gone for life. Some of them do, but some of them have like roots, and you need to be able to do that. Acting like a coach, I would encourage you to get a date for when you're going to really put some energy into identifying your ESOLs and clearing them, right? And again, several of you, we've had the privilege of spending time together several times in the past over the last few months. We tend to, our routine here at Full Circle is we do these conversations on average every couple of weeks. I can tell you right away that my admin goofed on this one. This date is wrong. It's not May the 19th because I'm going to be deep in the Quebec wilderness on a remote fishing trip on that date. So I apologize, you guys. This actually is the 26th of May as of this recording, 2022, that we're going to be doing this one, which is successful money management habits of wealthy docs. Every wealthy doc I've coached, and I've coached some uber wealthy docs, they all have a series of habits that they developed around managing money. And I can tell you, these are all learnable things. Some people have sort of like innate tendency towards them, but every one of these things is literally a learnable, scalable skill and a capability that can be developed. And I'm going to be sharing all of those on that conversation we're going to be having at this point of this recording. It'll be not 2 weeks, but 3 weeks. So again, I apologize for the missed date on this, you guys. It's actually the 26th. So again, thanks so much for spending time with me tonight. It's an awesome opportunity to be able to, identify and live your purpose. I know that my purpose in life, one of the reasons the Creator loved me into existence is to help people identify who they are at their most authentic core and express that as fully as possible. So thanks for inviting me to be a part of your world, a part of your life, and to be able to share some of these thoughts that I know when implemented will make a big difference, in your life and your practice. So appreciate you taking the time to be here. It's an honor. And if anybody has any questions, because we have a smaller group tonight, if anybody has any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them either by chat or just, if you're in a quiet background, just come off mute and please just share some of your questions. I'm very happy to put my margarita for Cinco de Mayo on hold for a little bit and answer any questions that anybody has. So anybody have a question?
I don't know, like, I'm trying to figure out what my limiting beliefs are, like, specifically. Like,
Dr. Eric, I see you back there. Dr. Kira, anybody have any questions either in the chat or verbally? I'm happy to hang out and answer them.
Do you have anything? Do you have any limiting beliefs around your parents and their divorce? I'm not saying.
Yeah, there's always family issues.
Well, yeah, I know what I'm saying. It's.
Well, I think what we'll do, you guys, is we'll leave it there for tonight. And again, make myself available for anybody that would like to have some more conversations. Dr. Eric says, I'm stuck on my why. Yes, there's a specific question, Eric. I'm happy to answer it, but I'm not sure if there is or not. Yeah, for sure we can. So Eric, do you want to stay for a little bit tonight and chat, or do you want to, book a call to be able to do that? Sorry, I'm having a private conversation, you guys. I apologize for that. I'll maybe just stop the recording and